Welcome to the Warframe weapon Encyclopedia, where today we're checking out the Boltor Prime. Now, since this is a prime weapon, the only way to get it is to assemble it from its prime parts, which you can either get by opening specific relics yourself or by buying the parts from other players. But since relics are rotated in and out quite frequently, I will leave a link to the official Wikipedia website for the Boltor Prime so you can check it out if you want to get the weapon to see which relics you want to go for or if they're even available when you're watching this video. The Boltor Prime is a Mastery Rank 13 fully automatic primary rifle that does primarily puncture damage with a little bit of impact on the side, and it has somewhat low crit but very high status. The accuracy on the Boltor is actually quite good, but since there is quite a bit of screen shake and the bolts have travel time, I would not recommend fighting enemies at very long ranges. Over the years, I've ran pretty much every build imaginable on the Boltor Prime, as you can tell by the wrong polarities and the 7 forma. And out of all the builds that I've tried, this one is probably my favorite. So we have Hybrid, so you go for crit and status, and you utilize Hammershot to get the crit multiplier and the status, as well as Hellfire to get more heat damage. This will happily get you through the entire Star Chart, Fissure missions, Nightmare missions, and even most sorties. But it's most definitely not the only way to build the Boltor Prime. Basically, everyone will build it a little bit differently. Some people don't like to go into crit at all, some people like to lean more into the crit, some people like to go more into raw damage, some people even build it for viral and heat, some even use hunter munitions. There's just a ton of stuff you can try here. The one thing I will say is that it's always beneficial to run a companion with vigilante mods on their weapon, so you get the crit from the set bonus. So if you do end up getting the Boltor Prime, I would highly recommend, more so than with a lot of other weapons, that you experiment with different builds. Don't just stick to the first build you try out a bunch of different builds with different elements to them and see which one feels the best for you. Now, would I recommend the Boltor Prime? Well, that kind of depends, but I'm definitely leaning towards yes. The main thing here is that it's not a hit scan weapon. You are firing bolts, and while the bolts are pretty fast, it is still harder to hit enemies at long range or enemies that are moving around. It's also lacking in the crit department, which is where it loses pretty badly to the Telos variant of the Boltor, and just like the other two Boltors, the damage distribution is not ideal. Doing primarily puncture damage is not the worst thing in the world, but it's also not the best. But it's still a fun weapon that looks cool, sounds cool, and does good damage. Plus, it also pins enemies to walls, which isn't just cosmetic, by the way. If you hit an enemy and they get pinned by it and they start flying backwards, if they hit another enemy, they will actually damage them. But it is ultimately up to you. If you feel like you would rather have a more status-focused version of the Boltor, go for the Boltor Prime. But if you feel like you would rather have a more crit-focused version, go for the Telos version instead. And that's pretty much it. So I thank you very much for watching as always, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.